So the Israeli dude is the one on the right. And he eventually leaves the discussion in anger. This is the type of behavior I'm talking about right here. This is the arrogant, annoying, Weasley behavior that I'm talking about right here. All right, let's just play this real quick.
Jewish population, and to describe my view as extremely marginal.
So just to give you guys some background, the Israeli guy here called Peter Beinart's view marginal because most Israelis disagree with him. And he said, yeah, you're right. My views are marginal in Israel, but they're not exactly marginal in America.
Right? Less than 10% support. I think you'd be absolutely right. But I don't actually think that's true in the American Jewish population now, based on the polling that we have. Right. So there was a poll last May which showed that 30% of American Jews think Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. No, shy. But we shouldn't interrupt.
So immediately starts interrupting, immediately tries to control the whole conversation, just doing Weasley-ass manipulative behavier.
Each other, surely. I mean, you spoke for a while. No, but if we're gonna do this,
shy. I'm gonna ask. We'll do. Shy. We'll do.
You can tear me apart, but
yeah.
Okay. So
I will mute participants. Shy. I will mute participants.
I'm about being respectful. You got to let me speak. You got to let me speak.
There's a difference between letting
Shy.
There's a difference between letting you speak and spreading lies. In other words, I'm not going to interrupt you unless you agree with me. You have to agree with me. Unless you agree with me, I'm not going to interrupt you.
I love you. Shy, I love you. Really, I do.
I can't continue if you're not going to let me speak. I'm sorry.
If you want, you can leave. If I'm not...
No. Shy. I don't want to do this. Shy, please. Yeah.
Speak.
Shy,
you want to let me speak or not?
Shy, I will meet you. Shy,
Listen.
I will meet you.
I leave. I will not be part of a live campaign.
You're not. You're gonna have ample opportunity to respond. It can't be.
You're all of a sudden talking about Gaza. I was not reflecting your view.
I'm responding to your point. You said that my view is marginal, and I'm explaining
your view. As
right. Okay, I'm going to mute. Wait, Peter. I'm going to mute both participants. Okay. I think this is the best way.
And he leaves. This is what I keep trying to tell people. Hasbara is dead, and the Israelis killed it. The Hasbarists killed it. And they keep acting arrogant and annoying and obnoxious and manipulative, and it just continues to turn off people, and it continues to get people to say, you know what, we're right. We're right to despise the Hasbarists. They're assholes. It's just the Israelis keep shooting themselves in the foot, bottom line. Anger over starvation in Gaza leaves Israel increasingly isolated. There we go, guys. Global outrage at the Netanyahu government's actions has grown since the war began, and the suffering of children in the enclave has accelerated the disdain. Some of Israel's most important Western allies, under political pressure from voters, appalled by mounting evidence of starvation in Gaza, now say they will recognize a Palestinian state. Oh boy. So, pressure works. Societal pressure actually works. Case in point, one of the reasons, the main reason why Netanyahu doesn't want to end this war is because he knows that Smotrich and Ben-Gvir would leave his coalition and would destroy his political coalition, and that would leave him to have to actually resume his corruption trial, which would possibly lead him to a prison sentence. And Netanyahu doesn't want to do this. So you have people getting butchered, and you have Israeli soldiers who are being killed in all this, because Netanyahu doesn't want to just continue on with his corruption trial, because he has been charged with taking bribes. So this is mass murder at a systematic level, all being done for just to protect the political career of some sycophant who does video chats with John Hagee. I'm not joking, by the way. He does video chats. He does freaking Skype calls with John Hagee. This is the leader of Israel. The leader of Israel does video chats with some bumfuck pastor in Texas. This guy is not a serious politician. He's an American puppet. Nothing more, nothing less. That's all Netanyahu is. He is there to represent America's military interest. He is there to represent the interest of the military-industrial complex. That is it. That's it. If America wanted Netanyahu gone, they'd have him gone. They'd do a freaking coup, and they'd have him overthrown, and they'd have somebody worse than Netanyahu take over. This guy is not a serious leader. He's not a serious leader of an actual country. He is a puppet that was put in there by America to control a glorified airstrip for the American empire. A glorified airstrip called Israel. Okay, that's it. You cannot take a politician seriously when he's doing interviews for Pastor Polo White. This is not a serious leader. This is not Putin. Netanyahu is not Putin. Netanyahu is basically just a banana republic politician. So it says here, opinion polls in the United States and elsewhere show an increasingly negative view of Israel. No shit, because they're doing mass murder. And there is no clear plan to bring the war against Hamas to an end. Because it looks like, for the most part, the Americans don't want to end it. There's too much money to be made in dropping bombs on Gaza. Plus, Palantir is making money with this war. They're making money out of this war. Peter Thiel, the German homosexual Nazi transhumanist, he's making tons of money out of this because Israel uses his Palantir technology, which is just AI surveillance information technology. It's an AI system that gathers people's data to help with obtaining military targets to kill people. That's what Palantir does. Peter Thiel's making money out of that. All these big defense companies are making money out of this. The German military-industrial complex is making money out of this, and the Germans are watching their technology being used in this war. So it's just as I said in one of my old videos, Gaza is just a giant testing ground for the various Western military-industrial complexes. So it says here, the usual Israeli view is that this crisis is another temporary problem, said Natan Sachs, an analyst of Israeli politics. Quote, but that's a misreading of the world. Because it's accelerating a global turn against Israel. Look at this. Look at the words. Accelerating a global turn against Israel that has dramatic effects, especially among young people. Guys, what did I say in one of my last videos? What did I say? The wave against Israel is not going to end. It's only going to grow. It's only going to get bigger. This is the bottom line. It's only going to get bigger. It's not going anywhere. And Israel either doesn't care or is completely oblivious and thinks that the world is still like it was in 2003 when the great majority of Americans were worshiping Israel. As anger grows over widespread hunger in Gaza, Israel risks becoming an international outcast. And now you know why. Now you know why you have all these Israelis who are prudent and who are wise enough to say, oh my gosh, oh my goodness, we're becoming a pariah state. And this is going to lead to Israel's destruction. Since Israel cut off aid in March to try to force Hamas to give up hostages, Israel's effort to install its own distribution system has been marred by chaos and casualties while hunger has increased. Scores have been killed as Gazans rushed to get food. By the way, over 1,000 Gazans have been murdered trying to get food. Over 1,000. Now, 800 Israeli civilians, around 800 or so Israeli civilians, at least this is the number that's been given to us thus far, were killed on October the 7th. Now, that's 800 too many people. But the Israelis have already surpassed the number of civilians killed trying to get food. The Israelis have already surpassed that number in their butchery of the Palestinians trying to get food. They've already killed over 1,000 Palestinians. The increasing debate over whether Israel is committing genocide is also reflective of how something fundamental has shifted in how Israel is perceived, said Daniel Levy, a negotiator under former Labor Party-led governments in Israel and current president of the U.S. Middle East Project, a nonprofit. He points to a sharp cultural shift with anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian, and sometimes anti-Semitic demonstrations at places including opera houses and music festivals. And he's not wrong. Anti-Semitism is increasing. Hatred towards Israel is increasing. Criticism of Israel is increasing. This is nothing to make little of. This is not a benign phenomenon. This is a serious phenomenon. And Israel just doesn't care because they think, well, we have the American military-industrial complex in our pockets. We have the American evangelicals in our pockets. We have AIPAC, and AIPAC has all these politicians in their pockets. This is not going to last forever because nothing lasts forever. You can give all the millions you want. Nothing is going to beat popular demand. Nothing is going to beat the marketplace of ideas. Nothing. Nothing is going to beat it. Eventually, the market is going to win. And the market is going to break the politicians. Because the politicians are going to realize, wait a second, getting money from AIPAC is not advantageous for me. Being pro-Israel is not beneficial for my political career. Oy vey, what am I going to do? I'm going to become more critical of Israel. And all this bullshit is going to crumble. You watch, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. For a long time, Israel thought that if we throw anti-Semitism and the Holocaust at them loudly enough, it will all go away, said Mr. Levy. But look at this. He even uses the words that I've been using. The zeitgeist is shifting, and the Israeli attempt at outrage works with an even smaller cohort. In fact, the reality is, Mr. Levi, that screaming anti-Semitism and screaming, Jew hatred and hatred towards Israel actually works against you. You actually get the opposite effect. The more you scream anti-Semitism, the more people will say, damn right, I'm anti-Semitic. The more you scream, oh, you guys hate Israel, the more people are going to say, damn right, I hate Israel. In fact, the people who are doing the biggest job, the people who are helping the anti-Israel cause the most are not anti-Israel activists. The people who are helping the anti-Israel cause the most are hasbara, hosparists, pro-Israel advocacy groups, pro-Israel activists are doing the most work to advance anti-Israel sentiment. Because the more they scream anti-Semitism, the more people say, yes, we're anti-Semitic. And the more arrogant the Hosperist act, the more people are going to hate the Hosperist. Opinion polls reflect the change. A Pew poll in April found that American views of Israel had turned more negative. About 53% of U.S. adults now express an unfavorable opinion of Israel, up from 42% before the Hamas attack. So before the Hamas attack, Israel was already losing popularity. 42% of Americans had a disfavorable view of Israel before October the 7th. And then, bam, October the 7th happens, and then there was this war. And then now, this year, it's up to 53% of Americans who have a negative view of Israel. Of those, the share who voice very unfavorable views of Israel went up to 19% of adults this year from 10% in 2022. So even that is rising. Another Pew poll conducted last month found that in 20 of 24 countries surveyed, now get this, in 20 of 24 countries surveyed, half or more of adults had an unfavorable view of Israel. So they surveyed 24 countries. And in 20 of those 24 countries, half or more than half of the adults who were polled had an unfavorable view of Israel. around 3/4 or more hold this view in Australia, Greece, Indonesia, Japan, the Netherlands, Spain, Sweden, and Turkey. Yes. Now, Turkey, not surprising. Indonesia, not surprising. But Australia? This is an Anglo country. 3/4 of those who were polled in Australia have a negative view of Israel. 3/4 of those in Greece have a negative view of Israel. 3/4 of those in Japan, a massive first world country, have negative views of Israel. 3/4 of those in the Netherlands have a negative view of Israel. 3/4 of those in Spain, Sweden, have negative views of Israel. Now, just to add something to the Netherlands, this is also very interesting. They polled people who voted for Geert Wilders. Geert Wilders is a big Zionist politician in the Netherlands. They polled people who voted for Geert Wilders, and still, I think it was like 30 or 40% of Geert Wilder voters are anti-Israel. So even a lot of the people who voted for Geert Wilders are critical of Israel themselves. They just don't want to see foreigners in their country, but they still don't like Israel. That's the thing that you have to keep in mind. It's just, no matter how you look at it, the pro-Israel building, think of it like a giant building, right? For many decades, it had a solid foundation. The pro-Israel America had a solid foundation. Massive lobbying, massive amounts of cash to back up that lobbying, tons of support from politicians, thanks to said lobbying, tons of support from the populace, thanks to the evangelical churches. It was huge. Israel has been going through a massive golden age, and this golden age has lasted for decades. But what we are seeing is the foundation of this building slowly beginning to crumble. It's crumbling right now. Now, what's happening is you have the pro-Israel people saying, no, what are you talking about? We still got politicians who are pro-Israel. That's like saying, oh, look, that's like someone saying, look, the building is crumbling. And then you come out and say, no, the building is still there. Well, the building is still there, but it's crumbling nonetheless. That's the whole point. It is crumbling. No matter how you look at it, it's going down. The largest danger to Israel in the future is not the stances taken by European leaders or its most passionate critics, says Mr. Sachs, the analyst argued. From the Israeli perspective, the most troubling phenomenon is the people on the fence. Ooh, this is good. The biggest threat is not the people who've been criticizing Israel for decades. It's not the Ken O'Keefes. It's not the Finkelsteins. It's not the politicians who are critical of Israel. It's the people who sit on the fence. In other words, the people who have been indifferent, the people who may have nominally supported Israel, the people who didn't care. The biggest threat for Israel is those people turning on Israel, because those people turning on Israel just tilts the scales enough against Israel's favor. That's the thing. And look at the election of Donald Trump. Look at how Donald Trump did not express massive enthusiastic support for Israel when he was running for re-election. He had to appeal to the massive criticism of Israel that had been growing in American society, and he had to appeal to the Muslim population in Michigan because he needed to win Michigan. And he won Dearborn. He won the most Arab area in all of the United States. And how did he do that? He didn't express serious support for Israel. So the change has already been seen. The change has already been manifesting itself. It's already happening. It's only just going to get worse from here for Israel. Not for other people, but for Israel. It's only going to get worse. So it says here that it says here, from the Israeli perspective, the most troubling phenomenon is the people on the fence. Either way, they don't know about the issue or want to stay away from it because it's toxic. The average person who might normally support Israel would rather stay away. In other words, they're afraid of the average American white dude shifting against Israel and being disgusted with Israel. or being so afraid of the toxicity of Israel that they'll stay away from it. That's what this guy is saying. And I've seen this firsthand. I've seen this firsthand. I know someone who was hardcore pro-Israel for decades. I've known this guy since I was in high school. And now he's reading The Camp of the Saints, and he's a Nick Fuentes fan, and he hates Israel. The dude changed. Now, it wasn't a change that happened overnight. I watched as this guy changed gradually. It was a gradual change that occurred in a span of years. But it was a change nonetheless. And the guy's not going back. The guy's not saying, you know what, Ted, I was wrong. I'm going to go back to being pro-Israel. No. He has gotten on the train, and he ain't leaving. He bought his ticket, he got on that train, and he ain't leaving. And that is a microcosm of what is to come in American society. I'm telling you guys, it's going to be very ugly. It's going to be very ugly for Israel. Because, you see, remember what happened after 9/11? There was this massive wave against Muslims, to the point where you had all these extremists that were rising up in American society against Muslims and Muslim immigration. Those people are still there. But that extremism is now not just being expressed towards Muslims. Now the extremism is being done towards Israel and AIPAC, and against politicians who are being paid by AIPAC. And you are going to be seeing a massive tidal wave of extremism against AIPAC support for politicians. It's going to be ugly. I'm telling you guys right now, it is going to be ugly. It's going to be very bizarre. But whatever the cause is, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is that Israel is or is becoming an international pariah. And Israel cannot afford that. So even Israelis see the writing on the wall. You even have someone who is a deputy national security advisor to Netanyahu. And he is saying Netanyahu has been very oblivious to this reality. And it doesn't really matter why the tide is shifting against Israel. What matters is the tide is shifting. And Israel cannot afford this because Israel needs the West's support. Israel's entire existence depends on the West's support. And if Israel loses it, you're talking about Shoah Part 2. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. I don't want that to happen. It's just the reality. There is built-up anger in the West at having been pushed for years to keep down criticism over Israeli actions, like the occupation of the West Bank, Mr. Avishai said. And that anger is now coming out more strongly over Gaza. What's happening in Gaza is appalling, and it diminishes the willingness of people to travel to Israel and to work with its scientists and companies, he said. For the Israeli economy, this is already devastating. So the Israeli tourism economy, which was once the main foundation of Israel's economy, is dead. The Israeli tourism economy is dead. The tourism business in Israel is dead. And this is why Israel has invested so much more in the military-industrial complex and in things like pharmaceuticals, because it cannot rely economically on tourism any longer, because people don't want to go to Israel anymore. They don't want fanatic settlers spitting at them, and they don't want to get hit by an Iranian ballistic missile. It's just the bottom line. And so it's just not looking good for Israel, no matter how you put it. It's just not looking good. And the hatred against Israel was building up before October the 7th, but because of what Israel has been doing in Gaza, it built up to the point where it just exploded. And it continues to explode, like multiple volcanic eruptions. And it's just not going to go down. It's just not going down. And it's not just hatred about the West Bank. You see, this is something I want to add also. It's not just hatred about the West Bank or Gaza. It is hatred. A lot of the hatred against Israel amongst the American white population is hatred against AIPAC. It is hatred against the idea that our politicians are controlled by pro-Israel money, by money that is spent on behalf of a foreign power. This is what's angering people, I think, more than anything else. And this anger is uniting both the right-wing forces who don't give a shit about Palestinians, but they're angry about AIPAC, and the left-wing forces who do care about Palestinians, and they also hate AIPAC. This is something that can cause a massive overlap between the left and the right, because their hatred for Israel can unite them. I think you're going to be seeing more extremism against AIPAC. You're going to be seeing more extremism against politicians who are pro-Israel. I think in the next 10 years, if we're still alive, it's going to be a very different world. Pushed by public reaction and by his own frustration, President Emmanuel Macron of France has said that his country will recognize Palestine as a state at the United Nations in September. Canada's Prime Minister, Mark Carney, said Wednesday that his country would do the same. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has made Britain's recognition conditional, because Keir Starmer said, I will recognize a Palestinian state if Israel doesn't stop what it's doing in Gaza. This is what Keir Starmer said. So if the British and the French and the Canadians and if the Germans come out and say, we recognize Palestine as a state, that is going to change the political discourse completely on this whole topic, because then you would have the Americans saying, no, we still recognize Israel. And that's going to push the Americans into more of a state of isolation when it comes to the Israeli situation. And that is going to deepen the divide between America and Europe. And then also, it's going to give the Palestinian cause immense Western legitimacy. This whole thing began last year with the Irish, the Spanish, and the Norwegians. The Norwegians, the Irish, and the Spanish all said, we recognize Palestine as a state. And that started the ripple effect. Because for the first time, we saw Western countries, especially a country as wealthy as Norway, and a country as wealthy as Spain, saying, we recognize Palestine. So now we see the French talking about it. We see the British talking about it. We see the Germans talking about it. We see the Dutch talking about it. And so this is going to give the Palestinian cause even more legitimacy. And is it going to lead to the formation of an actual Palestinian state? We don't know. But that legitimacy will give ammunition to the anti-Israel cause. And that legitimacy will give ammunition to serious enemies of Israel, like Turkey, like Iran, to say, Israel, you are truly, truly breaking international order. And now we have a right to go against you because you're going against a sovereign country. Just as America told Russia, you are going against a sovereign nation when you invade Ukraine. Turkey, Iran, and other countries could then tell Israel, Palestine is recognized by all these Western countries. Palestine is recognized by all these first world countries. You are encroaching upon a sovereign state. We now have the legitimate right, in accordance to the world order, to go to war against you for the sake of Palestine. Full stop. Full stop. This is why I say it's not looking good for Israel. It's just not. So it says here that recognizing a Palestine that doesn't yet exist is more of a symbolic gesture. 147 nations already do. But if both Britain and France join in, it will isolate the United States as the only permanent member of the UN Security Council that does not. And it would likely force Washington to veto such recognition. Jeffrey C. Herf, Emeritus Professor of History at the University of Maryland, said that he had seen a shift towards anti-Zionism in academia and society, and that he expected it to last. Now, what did I say in one of my last videos? The train has been set. The anti-Israel wave ain't going nowhere. It's sticking around. After World War II, the Allies aided German civilians, arguing that they had freed them from a mad dictatorship, Mr. Herf said. Israel should have come to Gaza to liberate the people from Hamas, the ways the Allies liberated the Germans from the Nazis, he said. But now the world hates Israel. Absolutely correct, Mr. Herf. I love this song. Such a great song from Resident Evil. Just gonna make it a little bit louder. So go to sleep.